It was kind of just an idea of what we can be. I was working in the trade since I was 16, and I'm working my way up to end up running someone's shop by the time I was in my early 20s. And around that time, I was like, well, if I'm running someone's shop, what's stopping me from actually opening up my own? I ended up reaching out to my partner, Vinny, and then asking him, what do you think it would take to actually open up a business?
Dan and I sat down and it's like, all right, let's run some numbers and see if this is really feasible. We came up with a budget. We had a rough plan, and then after that we kind of just started looking to see what we could get with it.
When we were looking for machines, and it was more about where can we put them, and we weren't sure what machines we were going to buy. We didn't want to have a lease payment on the machines, plus rent, electric, and trying to figure out how to get working. It would have been way too much for us. So to eliminate some of those factors, we decided that we're going to buy auction, and we're going to try to find a place that has high ceilings, high power, and that can accommodate, future growth for us.
We knew the area we wanted to be in, since we still both had full-time jobs. We knew kind of the size we wanted to be, and then we just went from there.
I think the biggest challenge was trying to find work and get people to give us an opportunity. Because when we first started out, we had potential customers, and then once we got everything in place and powered up, we didn't have any customers. They all kind of backed out. We had a rent to pay, we had electric to pay, and we had no work. So it was like, what can we do to, get it in? So for those first 6 to 8 months, Vinny and I, we were self-funding the place just to pay rent while we were trying to find anyone to give us a shot.
Trying to balance full-time job, you're there 8-9 hours a day, and then trying to come here when you're tired and do more work. And for me, I think that was the hardest thing. It was a sacrifice we were willing to, to take.
So in the beginning, there was a lot more doubters for us, so saying, why are you doing this? And you make more money working for other people, it'd be less stress. But I think there's a lot of support from the areas you don't expect, and that was really helpful. Like, you meet someone who started a business, and they can relate to you, and they would help. They'll give you words of advice, and those key moments were really crucial, especially when the times are tough. When we first started out, our goal was to have 3 machines within, I want to say a year, and then maybe 5 years down the line get another one. Within the first year and 6 months, we now have 6 CNC machines, 2 5-axis, and a lathe and a horizontal.
The feeling of working for yourself and having the ability to take your business in the direction you want is just like nothing else.
Being able to provide not just for my family and my loved ones, but being able to do something that no one in my family has been able to do before and break that cycle. I want to be able to be there for my future kids, be able to go to their ball games or anything, and be able to control that aspect of my life and not be on a schedule that is conflicting. I wanted to build a company that is unified, where it's not just about getting the next dollar and filling up my pockets, but it's my employees all the way down to the guy in the shipping department, and because he has a family as well. That dream of trying to build something that I never really had in my career is really what kind of inspired me, and even though times get tough, keeping that dream alive and knowing that it's there and I can still achieve it is what keeps me going. So behind me are our first 2 machines that we bought on auction, and everything else that we've acquired in the first year and a half, and let me show you what we have.
So over here is one of our first milling machines that we bought. It's a 3-axis machine. The Z moves up and down, the X is left and right, and the Y is in and out. This machine has 30 tools. It has a spindle chiller, which works very nice for us because it helps us keep our accuracy in our Z as the machine warms up. This machine also has a chip conveyor, which has been very helpful when we have those larger jobs that creates a lot of chip. It kind of just flows to the back and then comes out and puts it right into the 55-gallon drum for us. This machine was very nice to get. This controller was one of the first controllers I learned on, so it was something familiar to us. This machine's also set up for an integrated 4th axis. We currently don't have one set up, but it's nice that, you know, the hookup's there. It's straight in with the controller, so we don't have to have an external unit. It's just a very nice feature, and we were very lucky to have one with it. Our second machine over here was a YCM.
So this is our YCM Supermax. So this machine is a little bit bigger than that one in its work envelope. So we have 40 inches in our X-axis, on our Y we have 28, and our Z we have 28. The extra 10 inches we have allows us to do bigger parts. And our first real big job we did, we had this part that was like, it was 28 inches in diameter, so it just fit in there. I had weighed over 300 pounds, so and I was able to actually machine the whole thing. I went in there with a forklift and flipped it all around to actually get it done. The only thing that was kind of difficult was this machine didn't have a chiller and it doesn't have any encoders. So as the machine warmed up, it would move positions. So I spent a lot of time waiting for the machine to warm up and becoming accurate so I can do my final operations. This is actually, ironically, the first machine I learned on, controller-wise and brand. So for us being able to buy these on auction as our first 2 purchases, it was kind of like, oh, this is like meant to be. And it was a very homey feeling being able to take like that full circle moment. The other thing is this machine doesn't have a chip conveyor, unfortunately, but it does have these drawers here that allow us to just scoop it right down in here and take it out. That is a neat little feature that I wish more machines had. But that's it for our YCM. It's good for us. Then back here we have our assortment of our bolts. When we first started out, we used to make a lot of tooling, and we kind of overlooked like, oh my God, like we don't have bolts. I don't have anything to actually assemble anything. So we ended up just spending a lot of money trying to build up our supply, because it's something that you really overlook when you're starting off a business, especially in manufacturing. We have our arbor press, our belt sander, and our die grinder over here. And then some more tooling we have over here. We have angle plates, we have tilting tables, all the stuff on this side of the wall we bought throughout the last year and a half. A lot of it's on auction, some of it's been new or from people we know getting rid of it. It was all just support equipment to help us process our parts in a more efficient way before we had like a 5-axis to allow us to do faster operations. So we can talk about some of our other equipment we have or support tooling.
So over here we store all of our cutting tools, new ones, used ones, end mills, spot drills, etc. We also have all of our tooling for our holders, our wrenches, our spanner wrenches, all torque wrenches, just to make sure that, you know, we torque all of our holders to the right spec just for accuracy and consistency. We have an older style of a hydraulic holder. That's what this pump over here is. What it actually does is we would put our tool in here, put the attachment here, and it puts hydraulic oil into the holder, which actually compresses and holds the tool with a collar. We also have all of our collets in these drawers. We bought all of these either on auction or secondhand. We had a hard time actually getting them to fit in the drawer. So we went to the store and we bought some mats like you would use on your home gym, and then popped all these holes in it so we can actually hold all of our collets securely and neatly in all these drawers. And we actually have collets all the way up to these, which, Dan, you remember the size?
ER40s.
Which are ER40s. So we go from ER40s, which is our biggest, and all the way down to ER11s, which is our smallest. And then these are our cat holders. The 2 machines that we started with were BTs, but the rest of our machines are cats. So we have it pretty organized. We have some of our boring bars here. We have some of our hydraulic holders here. This whole thing's collet holders. So we have our 16s, our 20s, our 25s, and etc. lower. Because of the 5-axis, we have a lot of holders that are extended. So they're 4 inches or above gauge length. But these are all of our solid end mill holders. And then all these racks came with the holders. We bought them all as a package deal. And then with auctions, because we were a startup, we just bought boxes of people's drills. So we ended up buying a couple of these cases and setting them up on this shelf. But we sat there and we had to inspect every single drill to fill up all these cases, because we weren't going to sit there and buy, you know, hundreds of packs of drills. It was much more cost effective for us to buy someone else's leftovers and then set it up in our own place.
So this is our on the shop floor inspection. So I'm just gonna start with our granite here. So this is an 8-foot by 4-foot piece of granite that we had lab calibrated. I think it's flat within 50 millionths. So this was in our unit. So like when we were talking about in the beginning about how it was really hard to find a place that had power, we found this unit. This used to be a lab for a different company, and they left this here because it was too heavy for them to move. And the guy said, we can have it as long as if we rent the unit, we can have this piece. So for us, this is a massive piece that was already flat and already basically calibrated. So it was kind of a no-brainer for us to move in here. So now we use it for all our inspection here. So we have our micro height we use for checking our basic stuff, our true positions, our parts, anything that comes off here before final inspection. We use it for different things. We have our various blocks, 1, 2, 3 blocks, pins, gauge blocks. Over here we kind of staged our like on the shop floor things. We have more gauge blocks here. We have mics set from 1 to 12 inches. And then we just have some more things over here, like just more gauge blocks and indicators. Over here we have our tool touch off. So when our machines are running and we want to set up for the next job, we can actually come over here. We can preset our tools, so we're trying to stay a little bit more efficient. We use it pretty often, but not too. It really depends on what we're doing. So this is our first lathe we bought. So when we were buying things and trying to figure out our next capability, I had a lot of customers reaching out to me, hey, do you guys have CNC turning? And me and Vinny were like scrounging to figure out what to do. We didn't have any tooling for it, but we found this on auction. It was actually up in Florida, so we had it shipped here. So for us being kind of entry level with turning, it came with a chuck, it came with turning tools, it had everything we needed. It was kind of like a starter package, and it was like a really good deal. I think we got it for like under 10 plus shipping. So once we got it here, everything's not kind of as it seemed. It was kind of very like, oh my God, this machine is not, it's a little more rusted than it looked in the pictures. The actual hard drive wasn't in the computer. So we're kind of like freaking out, like, what did we do? We actually just rebooted the computer, or the hard drive on my computer, turned it back on, and it turned right up. We contact Mazak, they helped us set it up, and the machine is really accurate. It's actually held up really well. It seemed that the company that owned it prior cut a lot of plastic, so there wasn't a lot of wear and tear. So besides the actual flash rust that happened on like the surface, everything else in the back of the machine is held up really well, and we've been able to hold a few tenths tolerance on parts numerous amounts of times. So it really allowed us to kind of expand our capability without breaking the bank.
So this is another piece of equipment that we got from auction right when we started. It's a downdraft table. So what we do here is we do all of our deburring. When we have it on, even though it's a little noisy, it sucks down all the dust and chip that we make from any assortment of our air tools, cones, discs, our deburr pens, and it helps us, get better looking parts versus a file and sandpaper. And it just keeps our area clean. Also, we have an air filter that we have mounted on the ceiling, which helps us keep the overall air quality better in the building from the machines and other dust that we create from deburring or anything else.
So this is our other piece of equipment here. This is our 2-pallet 5-axis. So we just got this one. We have it wired. It isn't fully set up yet. We're still waiting for the service people to come down and do the final things. So what it is a 2-pallet machine. So this table actually swaps in and out. So this should expand our capability significantly, especially because this table here is a 500 millimeter table. So it's already kind of larger than typical 5-axis, which is nice. It also has 60 tool carousel, it has a laser touch off, and it has a probe that are all operational. We got this from a guy we know who was getting rid of it. So we've seen it operate, we've seen it run and make parts, so we know it's accurate, we know it works. It runs a Heidenhain controller, so it's just another controller for us to have to learn. Even though we have a Heidenhain, it's a new version of it, newer to us. So it's just another hurdle for us to learn and jump through. So you can look in here, so you can see our table and everything. You have our Blum laser tool touch off over there. You have our carousel over there with our tools. And this is an 18,000 RPM spindle that should allow us to get up those RPMs, and it has a spindle chiller as well. So just for this is real good capability, especially for any aircraft parts, semiconductor things that we're trying to break into that industry. I think this really stands us apart from the competition, because not a lot of people at our stage has equipment at this caliber.
So this is actually our first new machine. It's a 40 taper horizontal. We have 2 pallets. Right now we have one of our jobs that's set up that will run almost all the time. We make revolvers for a local company. Right now we're set up for large steel ones. But what this machine does is, because it has 2 pallets, the table will lift up and then spin around and actually go over here into the machining area. So what makes this machine a horizontal is that the spindle is horizontal. So like the other machine where the head moves up and down, this head stays stationary and the table moves in and out. And then the head itself moves in the X and the Y direction. This allows, really good chip evacuation. The machine is much more rigid, so we can take heavier cuts and the machine, doesn't feel like it's vibrating apart. This machine was bought especially for this job. One of our customers actually put the money up front for the machine, and we're working it off, which we are very grateful for, because that means we have consistent work, at least until the machine's paid off with, a long-term contract, which is, something ideal for a startup company. This machine also has 120 tool pockets. Right now we have about 45 set up for this particular job. One of the big benefits to having this many pockets is when we switch over jobs, we still have to do, all the fixturing and stuff, but we don't have to reset up tools, which is a really good time saving for us.
So this is our first 5-axis, it's a DMU 50. When we first got this, it was kind of surreal because we didn't really have a lot of equipment at the time. We had just the lathe. And when this came in, it was like, this is surreal. We have a fully functional 5-axis. And me and Vinny, working in an aerospace company, this is what we learned on. This is what we used to use all the time. So it was like our bread and butter. So to be able to have one of our own, it was another full circle moment that happened in like the first year. So this machine has 60 tools in this carousel here. It's a 15,000 RPM spindle, and it's a full functioning 5-axis. So you have your B, you have your C, and it's simultaneous. This controller here is an older style Heidenhain. I've never actually used the Heidenhain up until this, so it's just another hurdle for something you have to learn. Our goal was to have all similar machines with the same controllers, but it didn't work out that way. So you just kind of take it in strides and try to learn as much as you can, and just refer back to the book or people online. It's very helpful. Back here is where we load all our tools. So this machine, you actually have to load them in the back. You don't load them through the spindle. And that was new for us, because I'm running from different machines where most of the time you load your tools right through into the spindle themselves. So you have your carousel 1 and then carousel 2, and you have your tool 60 mags here. This machine has high pressure coolant through here with our external tank, and it has a chip conveyor. So for it being an older machine, it still holds 1,000 tolerance all day, full tracking. It is a quality machine, and it helps us do a lot of significant hard work right in the beginning.
So over here is our manual department. Right now we have a honing machine. We have some surface grinders. Over here, drill press, Bridgeport, and then we have a manual lathe. Generally, all this equipment we use for secondaries. We don't necessarily make really any complete parts on it, but it's a very crucial and important department to have.
So this is our inspection department here. we have this is our manual CMM. We bought this to help support our secondary inspection. We're planning on upgrading it to do a full inspection. This will allow us to measure like profile of a surface and measure parts based on models. Right now we have all our pins. We have a lot of pins, so right now they're just kind of sitting here, and we're eventually going to make some storage units for them so nice and organized. This is full of inspection equipment. We have everything from thread gauges, micrometers, gauge blocks, Deltronic pins. We have thousands. These are our dial bores actually. But here, in this drawer here, these are all our Deltronic pins we use when we're measuring our different hole sizes. We have different variations of ways to measure them. This is just one of them. Like I said, we bought all this stuff on auction or from people we knew who were getting rid of them or companies that were closing. The reason being is it allows us to rapidly expand our inspection capabilities, but it also allows us to make better parts and perform for our customers. Over here we have, this is our first piece of equipment. It's from 1942. So this is all veneer scales. So over here you have everything with your tenths here. You have another scale right here as well, and it's all micrometers. So it's an older piece. It's a little bit more cumbersome to use, but for us when we first starting off, having this capability was more important, and then having the newest piece because we needed to make parts, and that was the end goal. Well, thank you for tagging along and seeing our facility.